So this is the A major lesson from the Volume 2 method book. So we're going to go through A major scales and arpeggios and chord progressions, and then look at the Prelude in A by Carulli, which kind of puts the chords into active play in a solo composition. So this, of course, is from my second method book that goes through different keys, and there's a link to that in the YouTube info section or off of thisisclassicalguitar.com. So in this particular key, because we're going to do a small shift to second position and play these upper notes, we're going to play with a 1 finger per fret rule, just meaning that 1 finger per fret, or first finger on the first, second on second, third on third, fourth on fourth, instead of using our 4th finger on this high G like we've been doing in some keys. So both styles of playing 1 finger per fret or the other one are good, but there's certain situations where one is preferable. So this is a case where 1 finger per fret is more preferable. So let's go through the scales and chords and then get on to the piece. So a 2-octave A major scale. So you'll notice in that one that we did a small change from first position to second position. Let's just do it one more time and take a look at that. That's the last note in first position, and then second position. When you change positions in this scale, make sure your thumb moves with the hand. So if we're playing in first position, our thumb will be behind the 2nd fret. When we change to second position, your thumb should be behind the 3rd fret. And then when it returns, it should go back to the 2nd fret. Make sure that it's doing that. Some students have a tendency to let the hand lag behind, or that the thumb lag behind the hand, and so you end up like this. You're in second position with the thumbs behind the first finger. Let's not do that. Let's keep each position very clear. That way, from a technique perspective, our hand position is always exactly the same, whether you're here, or way up here. It's exactly the same. Your thumb is this point of reference for the fingers to play from. If your thumb is off, then your fingers might start playing on the wrong frets because your point of reference is off. So just make sure that you're clearly moving from one position to the next. Let's play the position scale. So that's from the lowest note to the highest note in the position, which is really useful for reading purposes, right? You want to be able to read all the notes within a key, not just play the 1 or 2 octave scale. And then the 2-octave A major arpeggio. So that's a bit of a funny one because the A chord, all these fingers crammed into one fret, is a little bit awkward. And then on top of that, we have to reach our 4th finger out to the C sharp here. So my recommendation is just get that C sharp, let it sustain for a second, then continue with your chord. Then during the open string, do the shift. Keep it a little bit organized, but very legato. And then the A major triads. So just root position to second inversion to root position. And then the chord progression in A major, which you can just strum. A, D, A, E, E7, A. Then the 4-voice chord progression, you're just playing 4 notes at a time, and I don't think there's any new fingerings. You have to change your fingerings a little bit maybe. For example, for the E7 chord, we end up going like this instead of the full shape. So only use the fingers that are needed for the chord. Don't finger the whole strumming shape if you're only playing 4 voices. So I'm going to not play the A major with these fingers. I'm going to switch these ones over because I don't need that 4th string in this case. Until the last chord, then I do need it. Okay, the Prelude in A by Carulli. So this is a great little prelude or arpeggio etude, and lots of recognizable chords. You might not recognize all of the chords, but as I've said in the text, I've said try to identify some of the A chords, the E7 chords, and the D chords. And quite often in this piece, an A is constantly in the bass. That's called a pedal tone, where the A is going to remain in the bass, but different chords are going to occur over top of it, even chords where A doesn't belong in the chord. But because of the consistency of the repeated A's in the bass, it sounds okay. I'll play through the piece first, and then I think I'll play it again, just kind of calling out the chords so you can recognize them in case you're not able to on your own. This is one of the pieces in the book that kind of exceeds the level of grade 1 just by a little bit maybe. But at the same time, if you've gone over the chord shapes that I've talked about, I don't think it's very hard. You can tell in this piece that really the left hand is just holding chords for most bars. So in one ways, it's a little bit tricky to read all these chords, but once you recognize them, it's really easy, and the requirements on playing are very little. It takes a little bit of effort to smooth it out, but just getting the chords is fairly easy. So let's go through this just naming the chords. So here's an A chord, E7, even though the A is in the bass, this is an E7 chord. And then the second line, this is an E major chord, even though it has an A in the bass. And then A7 on the third line, and then D with an A in the bass, and then an A chord with an E in the bass, going to your E chord, A. I would do a little bit of a rit here because the third finger needs to jump to here for the F sharp 7. B minor chord, E, and then A, D, A with an E in the bass, E chord, then A arpeggio. So we need to reach that fourth finger over at the end because we want to sustain these notes, leaving our fingers down. Then you have the piece. So it's not necessary that you know all those chords, but if you can just recognize some of them, then you're on the right track. Just a quick note, I did modify this piece a little bit. I just revoiced one or two chords to make it a little bit more playable at this grade level. No one's ever going to notice. It's not like the most defined piece. It's really just arpeggios. So I don't think you'll miss any of that, but I've just modified it a little bit. So just recognize some of those chords, be careful of your fingering, try to make it smooth from one chord to the next, and then you'll get some experience putting these chords into action in a classical kind of way.